Good afternoon. Welcome to Business 360, your complete view of the stories driving business, markets, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin, and this is the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Alan Peter Cayetano replaces Tito Soto as Senate President as the House of Representatives votes on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment case this very minute. Local stocks are up as more foreign money entered the Philippines in February. Net inflows reached $590 million. And from NVIDIA to Samsung, global stocks are entering the week riding an AI wave. Through a deadlock in peace talks could pull against that momentum. We get the read from our business and markets reporter, former Morgan Stanley investment banking analyst, Chico. Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is sworn in as the new Senate President. He replaces Senator Tito Soto after 13 affirmative votes for a leadership change. Atty is reporting live from the Senate.
Yes, Apa, following the oath of taking of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano as new Senate President, sinundan niya ng botohan sa Senate President pro tempore position, which is basically the Vice President of the Senate, at kakapanumpalang ni Senator Lauren Legarda bilang bagong Senate President pro tempore. She replaced Senator Ping Lacson in this position nang mapalitan nga itong si dating Senate President Tito Soto. So a few minutes ago, literally before airing, we had a short interview with Senator Bato de la Rosa about his arrival nga dito sa Senate plenary. At inaalmahan niya yung umano'y pag-wrestle sa kanya ng NBI personnel na nandito rin sa parehong building. At ngayon, kapansin-pansin yung presence ng ilang police dito sa gilid ng Senate plenary. At nang tanungin natin kung bakit nandito si Senator Bato, he said na kung hindi daw siya makakapasok ay hindi siya makakaboto patungkol doon sa Senate leadership. Pero when it comes to the looming warrant of arrest umano ng ICC para sa senador, hindi niya yan sinagot diretsahan at instead he pointed at his alleged injury doon sa kanyang kamay na agad namang binigyang atensyon ng Senate medical team. Kanina nagwala kasi itong si Senator Bato upon entering the Senate premises at sinabi niya na nanggagalaiti or he hates the Marcos administration for doing this to him, na hinaharangan daw siya habang papasok ng Senate premises. Ayon po kay De La Rosa, siya raw ay hinarangan kanina sa parking area bago po nagkaroon ng Senate session. At kasabay po niya, nagkaroon din ng maiksing speech itong si newly installed Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano. At sinabi niya na hindi naman daw po Okay, so before anything else, currently merong daw pong gustong iparelease na CCTV footage ang Senate Sergeant at Arms patungkol dun nga sa nangyaring komosyon kanina bago nakaakyat itong si Senator Bato. At hinihintay natin kung ilalabas itong CCTV footage. Pero sa ngayon ay magsasalita itong si dating Senate President Tito Soto about this suggestion to release the CCTV footage. According to Soto, meron po siyang reservations about it because it has never been done in the Senate at hindi rin daw po na-suspend ang Senate rules para lang po sa pag-release ng Senate footage. At sa ngayon po, nire-recommenda ni dating Senate President Tito Soto na isuspend or i-adjourn ang Senate session bago mapag-usapan itong CCTV footage. So, so far, again, si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano ang bagong Senate President at dalawa yung nag-abstain kanina, yan ay sina Senator J.V. Ejercito at dating Senate Majority Leader Mig Zubiri at sinabi niya gusto niya raw kasing maging independent. So ito po ang listahan ng mga bumoto kay Senator Alan as new SP. Yan ay si Senator Tito, Senator Aimee, Senator Rodante Marcoleta, Senator Joel Villanueva, Senator Cheese Escudero, the Villar siblings, Senators Camille and Mark, Senator Robin Padilla, Senator Bongo, Senator Bato de la Rosa, Senator Loren Legarda, Senator Pia Cayetano, and Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Habang ang bumoto naman kay dating Senate President Tito Soto para ma-retain siya bilang SP ay etong si Senator Alan, Senator Ping Lacson, Senator Rizon Tiveros, ang Tulfo Brothers na sina Senator Rafian Irwin, Senator Win Gatchalian, Senator Chico Pangilinan, Senator Bam Aquino, and Senator Lito Lapid. So sa ngayon, nagsasalita itong ang Senator Bato about the alleged attack of the NBI personnel to him. So, may motion itong si Senator Bato de la Rosa na alisin daw sa Senate premises ang personnel. Kasama itong si dating Senador Antonio Trillanes na umano'y nasa loob ng Senate premises. Again, Senator Bato is moving to remove former Senator Antonio Trillanes within the Senate premises na ngayon daw po ay nandito rin. Spotted po itong Senator Bato na sumisigaw currently because nakita niya raw po si former Senator Sonny na nandito rin sa loob ng Senate building. Sabi naman po ni bagong Senate President Alan Peter Cayetano, welcome po si Trillanes bilang dating senador ng Pilipinas. At yan ang latest dito sa Senate plenary. Balik sa inyo dyan sa studio.
In our premises. Yung nag-asulto sa'yo, hindi dapat pakawalan. Dapat dalhin sa for inquest. No? Yung kung walang kilalaman na nandito at wala silang official business dito, may motion ang Senator Bato na paalisin sila sa Senate. Is there any objection?
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. I have no objection to the motion of Senator De La Rosa. As a matter of fact, I will probably support this motion. But parliamentary rules dictate that we settle first the previous motion.
Yes.
There is an pending motion. Kaya hindi pwedeng patungan ng lesser motion.
Thank you for that reminder.
Let's resolve first the motion of Senator Jinggoy Estrada unless he wants to withdraw the motion.
Yes. With Senator Pia Cayetano, is it on the same topic or a different topic?
It's a continuation of the removal of the person, so I can wait until this motion
let's
is
act
resolved.
first on that. Senator Estrada, may I ask?
Thank you, Hannah T, reporting live from the Senate. The House vote on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment is underway. We get the latest from Janina Vela live from the House of Representatives.
May numero ba tayo? Yan ang pahayag ni House Justice Chair Jervil Luistro, no? But she was not actually talking about the votes in today's possible plenary voting, but the 6.7 billion in transactions that they found with Vice President Sara Duterte. The House Committee Chair, once again, Jervil Luistro, called on to her 250 present colleagues in today's plenary session and urged this chamber to vote in favor of the committee report 261 and House Resolution Resolution 989. The congressional plenary has begun tackling the committee report setting forth the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte. She also laid out the 4 articles with evidence supporting the charges. Number 1, violation of the Constitution. Number 2, bribery, graft, and corruption. Number 3, high crimes evidenced by the solicitation of assassination. And last but not the least, the betrayal of public trust. This is actually 4 out of 5 of the grounds stated in the 1987 Constitution on impeachment. Luistro called out as well the alleged absentee votes even before voting actually started and urged the plenary to vote based on evidence and justice. Previously, the early computation of early votes in favor of the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte amounted to 137 votes from Lakas CMD party list, National Unity Party, and party list coalition. And just this morning as well, a source told Bilyonaryo News Channel they shared with us another 30 votes from the Nationalist People's Coalition. This puts the possible vote in favor of the impeachment at 167 votes instead. According to Luistro, after the unanimous vote of the House Committee on Justice, the decision is now in the hands of the House of Representatives. Apa?
Thank you. Thank you, Janina Vela, reporting live from the House of Representatives. We're taking a quick break. Stay tuned to our rolling coverage of the House's impeachment vote against Vice President Sara Duterte. You're watching Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Political analysts Attorney Edward Chico and Professor Froilan Calilung join us to discuss the Senate leadership change and the House impeachment vote on Vice President Sara Duterte. Welcome to Business 360. Attorney Chico, Professor Froilan, let's talk about the Senate coup that just took place. Senator Cayetano said, the change in Senate leadership has nothing to do with the impeachment. Do you believe him?
Well, I guess it has to do with the impeachment because the timing and the way it's done would suggest that it has to do with that. And it actually makes sense, because you're trying to impeach someone who's a front runner in 2028, so definitely she wouldn't take this sitting down. She'd expend all effort trying to perhaps convince the Senate not to convict her. So definitely it has to do with that. I could not see any other reason why there should be a change in leadership now.
Mm-hmm. Attorney Chico, once the case reaches the Senate, can it go straight to trial? I mean, Soto said that he would, his interpretation of forthwith is the next day. What is the first move you expect from Duterte's camp? Challenge the process, prepare for trial, or go back to the Supreme Court?
Well, interestingly, the Supreme Court has just made a decision regarding the definition of forthwith. So it is actually tantamount now to reasonable period, which of course is subject to the discretion of the Senate. So the Senate is not necessarily bound to basically constitute itself as an impeachment court the next day. And you have to understand that historically, that hasn't actually been the case. In the case of ERAP, if I'm not mistaken, it took them, I think, 20 plus days after the transmittal of the articles of impeachment. It took them 25 days to constitute itself as an impeachment court. In the case of Corona, I think it took them 35 or 34 days. So at the end of the day, there is so much leeway given to the Senate to be able to actually find a date where it could actually proceed with trial. But at the end of the day, it has no choice but to do that because it's a constitutional mandate. Ang problema lang, if there is delay, then it allows other parties interested in the case to be able to exhaust their legal remedies and go to the Supreme Court. So there's a lot of petitions that they could actually file. And in the meantime, while the Senate is busy trying to set things in order for the purpose of conducting trial. So that is expected, Kasi you have to understand, impeachment is a numbers game, Politika lang talaga ito. So kung ako man yung mga partido, I would exhaust all legal remedies that are actually available to me. Because the problem here is that if Sara gets convicted, there's a possibility that she may also be perpetually disqualified, although it's not automatic, it seems, because in other jurisdictions, like in the US, for example, if you're impeached, if you're convicted, the Senate has to make a separate ruling on disqualification. So anyway, ang point ko lang, mahaba pa ito, pero marami pang pwedeng gawin. That's exactly how I see this.
Okay. Okay, we're going to continue. Professor Calilung, if Duterte's camp challenges the process, does that help their persecution narrative? Or make them look like they're trying to avoid trial, delay?
Yeah, basically I'd like to comment first on the eventual Senate presidency of Alan Peter Cayetano. Well, for one, I think in politics, nothing is coincidental. I think everything is actually by virtue or done by virtue of real intentions. And I think this is really a fruition right now that we're seeing of the many months that he is trying to consolidate forces, especially from the minority, and he's trying to creep into the majority bloc so as to get enough numbers. And I think more than him assuming the Senate presidency, I think it also shows cracks within the majority bloc.
Sorry to interrupt, but we have some new developments from the Senate. Atty, what's happening?
Tribunal. Okay. Yun ang ginagamit natin dito.
So pwede pang yun. Pwede pang ayusin yan ngayon, sir. Ihabol today. Sir, pahabol niya. Paano pa naman sir?
Hindi na natin papalabasin yan si
Pero sir, kayo din daw hindi palalabasin.
Andito ako dahil nag-request si Bato. Publicly, National TV, nasamahan ko'y mag-aaresto. Nandito ako ngayon.
You have the warrant, sir? You have the warrant?
Yes, pinakita ko na kanina. Sir, okay na po, okay na po.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's Oh my God. Hello? Is somebody there? Hello?
Thank you, Atty. Atty, what's going on?
Yes.
What's happening?
Apa, that's actually, we actually just had a conversation with former Senator Tony Trillanes saying he personally appeared here sa loob ng Senate premises to be with NBI personnel para ma-serve itong warrant of arrest ng ICC kaugnay ng kampanya kontra droga at crimes against humanity charges laban kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. So it came from former Senator Trillanes himself that there is indeed an actual warrant of arrest against De La Rosa, who was PNP chief under the Duterte administration's drug war. So tinanong natin kung ano yung role ni Trillanes doon sa pag-serve dahil dati naman siyang senador at sabi niya, yan daw ay upon the personal request of Senator Bato na hamon nito ni De La Rosa sa kanya na personally ay samahan itong mga aaresto sa kanya pagdating doon sa ICC case. Kaya raw, tinupad niya lang daw yung hiling ni De La Rosa. Kaya siya nandito at pinakita niya sa atin personally itong nasabing warrant at pumasok na ito si Trillanes sa loob ng opisina ng Sergeant at Arms to show them the existing ICC warrant of arrest. So ngayon, this is actually a big development here in the Senate because after months of whispers, bulong-bulungan at umuugong na umano'y warrant of arrest, opisyal na ngang inihain at ihahain rather itong warrant of arrest ng ICC kay De La Rosa. Apa.
Okay, well, that's very interesting development. You know, that I didn't see coming. I bet you didn't either.
So many things happening in a single day, actually. And you know what's happening right now in the Senate, I think, is really overshadowing what is supposedly the moment of the House of Representatives. And yeah, so many things to expect along the way, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, as I was saying a while ago, I think this particular election of Senator Alan Peter Cayetano manifests I think, fissures or factions within the majority bloc, because it's very unlikely that somebody from the minority will be able to snatch in and get the Senate presidency, especially at this critical juncture. And I think this bodes well, if I may say, for the vice president, primarily because Senator Alan Peter Cayetano is actually known for his key narratives on provisions on procedural mechanisms. Is very keen on that. And if you could recall, the last impeachment, which was of course said to be supposed to be done forthwith, he tried to block that by remanding it, giving it back to the Congress. And so I think this eventualities is something that we could expect as well in his kind of presidency.
Professor Calilung, if Duterte's camp challenges the process, or Cayetano, for instance, says, "Oh, remand it back to the House," can they torpedo the impeachment?
Well, I don't think at this point that it's going to be politically correct for the vice president to block this right now, especially because the way I see it, the tides clearly is going to their favor at the moment with Senator Alan Peter Cayetano at the helm. No? So if ever they will be, going for these delays, unnecessary delays, I think this will paint a narrative that may boomerang against them, primarily because I think the public perception is that they want the impeachment to go on. The public impression is that they really want this to know exactly what's the root cause of everything. And this is precisely the reason why many people became a bit patient when she did not appear in the congressional inquiries, right? Because they believe that it's the Senate that is the right forum. And so if they're going to remand it or have this constitutional delays and this legal technicalities, I think this will not create a good impression insofar as the vice president is concerned.
Yeah. If the House vote is overwhelming,
Right.
Right. I mean, if they get 200 votes to impeach, does that show the strength of the cause or the strength of political machinery?
Well, at the end of the day, it's always the Senate that will have the final say. And I think right now in the Congress, they will definitely have the numbers because they only need 106. The Justice Committee already was able to have 53. So they only need 53 more. And if the rumors are true that there are, there are incentives that were given to them, then I think it's moot and academic that they will be able to reach that number. But like I said, this day is very surprising. A lot of surprising developments in a single day. I really didn't expect that there will be a Senate leadership shakeup happening right now. All the while we were thinking that it will, the House of Representatives would just simply convey the articles of impeachment to the Senate, and all of a sudden we now have a different ballgame because of this Senate shakeup.
Do you think, Attorney Chico, that these claims of pressure on the one hand and incentives on the other hand might taint the House vote?
Well, let me just put it this way, and as I've always been saying, this is a numbers game. It is one impeachment case where from the very get-go, somehow the public already knows how the members of Congress, members of the House would cast their votes, hindi ba? So it's a numbers game. Wala talaga tayong magagawa dyan. But what's interesting is that on the one hand, the President can still wield so much influence over Congress, particularly the House, because it's not yet a lame duck President. It's something that happens to you during the tail end of your term. So right now, the President can still basically control the House to a certain extent. And on the other hand, what's interesting about our House representatives is that they are not actually worried about the potential backlash in 2028, precisely because unlike the senators who are seeking national posts, these congressmen to a certain extent control their respective districts to a certain extent. So they couldn't care less. So even if they go against Sara, they're confident that they'd get reelected anyways. But once it reaches the Senate, it's a different ballgame. So if I were a senator, for example, who is part of the trial, so the vote that I may cast would basically depend on what I want. So if I am seeking re-election, do I wish to go against the Duterte solid base, or am I willing to, take risk? So these are things that would definitely somehow be a factor in making a decision.
How much room do these senator judges have to act politically instead of being bound by the impeachment rules?
Well, there's quite a number of factors that you have to take into consideration. Number one, there's Malacanang, who obviously would still with influence over the senators.
Yeah.
And how do they do that? So let us talk about the peculiar circumstances of certain senators, like Jingoy Estrada, for example, or sino nga yung pastor, Joel Villanueva,
Yeah.
or Chis Escudero. There are pending cases against them. So those pending cases might be used as leverage.
Right.
Those pending cases might be used to somehow influence them to voting certain ways. So what about those senators who allegedly are included in the report? Are allegedly part of the flood control controversy, but for some reason their names have not been included yet. So that could be, that issue could also be used against them. So what about the issue on leadership of the Senate? What if Tito Soto would want to get back control of the Senate leadership? So that could also be a factor. So there's really a lot of factors that need to be considered. But at the end of the day, it's a political exercise. It's a number games. They actually couldn't care less about the pieces of evidence that might be presented. To a certain extent, they would want to give this an impression or some semblance of legitimacy. But at the end of the day, they can actually control the proceeding. Look at what happened to Chief Justice Corona when he was actually convicted in the Senate. He was convicted, but years later, it was actually found out that a lot of the things he amassed are not necessarily ill-gotten wealth. And in fact, the administrative cases that were filed against him were actually ipso facto dismissed by the Supreme Court. So it only shows us that at the end of the day, this is really a political exercise. Because if you would want to really be strict about the rules, particularly issues relating to admissibility of evidence, there are certain pieces of evidence that were introduced in the House which ordinarily would not have been admitted as pieces of evidence. Hearsay evidence, for example, hearsay is not admitted, but as you saw during the hearing conducted by the Justice Committee, even hearsay could be admitted for as long as it somehow is palatable to them.
That weakens the case, doesn't it?
Well, to a certain extent, but what can you do? This is a political exercise. Even the Supreme Court recognizes this. According to the Supreme Court, impeachment is a sui generis proceeding, so meaning it's a numbers game. So the purpose is to remove and not necessarily to punish, because if they would want to hold the Vice President criminally liable, they would actually have to file the necessary criminal cases before the Ombudsman. But the thing is, that's not the goal. The goal here is to remove her on the one hand, and subsequently, hopefully, to disqualify her to run for office, because surveys have been conducted one after the other, and so far, she remains a front runner. So the only way you can actually defeat her is to remove her. And that's understandable.
Could she, sorry about the newbie question, could she resign and therefore not undergo the impeachment process?
Yeah, well, that's actually very interesting, because there is no specific provision in the Constitution that specifically addresses that. So if she would resign from office, the understanding is that it would moot the ongoing proceeding, because there's nothing to remove. Why would you remove someone who's just removed herself? So that is actually one school of thought. The other school of thought is that even if she resigns from her post, the proceeding should still continue, because there's this other issue on disqualification which should be treated separately.
Well, also, accountability for her actions.
Yeah, but that's the thing about impeachment. It's not really about accountability. It's about removal and disqualification. Accountability is something you pursue when you file the necessary criminal cases against her. So yun yung problema doon. But historically, from a historical standpoint, I remember, di ba si former COMELEC Chairman Bautista, there was an impeachment case that was actually filed against him before the House, but he resigned. And the House decided to just dismiss the case because they think the resignation is basically mooted the proceeding.
But he did face criminal cases after.
But he's nowhere to be found, so that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But I just would like to clarify that this has nothing to do with accountability. Even the Supreme Court has expressly, emphatically stated that.
The thing, if I may add, is that the impeachment, whether it becomes results in a conviction or acquittal, will of course create some kind or some leverage of public perception. It could actually weaken. It could actually weaken her political base moving forward to the 2020 elections. Not only that, even if she resigns, she will now be held susceptible to criminal charges that may be filed against her by the ombudsman. And if the ombudsman will really work double time, will really create the necessary traction.
Which expectedly he would.
He would, and at least before the elections will come in, then it might change the entire complexity of the matter. But impeachment really creates that an added layer, not just the constitutional provisions of jurisdiction, but it's really about the public perception. Because once you're impeached, there's already that impression that you are being implicated into something that you are not supposed to be doing in the first place, which is of course corruption.
But I remember, this is just a story, if I may say, I heard a rumor that some congressmen actually thought that if they could just conduct all these hearings, even if the impeachment would not succeed, at the very least, they could already expose the vice president and somehow influence the public to, at the very least, withdrawing support.
Yeah.
So I guess that could also be seen as an issue.
Yeah.
Kumbaga, masira lang natin siya kahit hindi na siya ma-impeach o ma-convict. That should be enough.
So that's what we're seeing. On one end, it's constitutional procedure, and then on the other hand, it's political weaponization. So which is which? But I think what we need to understand here, if I'm to be asked, is that we should not have this selective outrage for one person alone. I mean, if the vice president is actually being charged with this corruption allegations, I think the current administration is also guilty of the same. But why is the Congress not so adamant about pursuing it? When in fact, right now we are, I believe, at the lowest point of our economic status as a country. I mean, you have 7.2 inflation. You have a ballooning, what do you call this, foreign debt right now at the moment, sitting at around 18 trillion, and then you have a very high peso to dollar exchange rate. I think what is very clear right now is that this particular proceeding was actually created to actually bring forth the light from other pressing economic issues. These are gut issues, by the way, to other areas, especially this political noise that we're seeing right now, which is not fair, I think, because if we're having this problem right now, I think governance should also be there to actually solve these issues. And I think this is the thing with impeachment; it actually siphons a lot of focus from governance towards something that is political. And I think this is what we're seeing right now.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. I have to say that a lot of the macroeconomic numbers are affected, of course, by the fuel crisis and the what's going on in the Middle East. No, so it's not the government's fault entirely, but before that, they had pretty decent macroeconomic numbers.
Right, but then again, when we talk about impeachments, we need to understand that it also focuses or hinges on economic certainties.
Yes.
Because if there is political instability, I think the investors and all of these people who are inclined to invest in the country may actually be thinking twice or even many times over before they finally get their decision to invest in the country.
Of course.
Because impeachment will always be divisive. There is no such thing as an impeachment that is purely grounded only on one particular particular area of consideration, or that we are collectively inagreeable to it. I think that will never happen, especially in the case of the Vice President, because she has still a very considerable support base. And I think this is the reason why many of her supporters are actually claiming that she was voted by 32 million people, and that she's going to be pulled away from her position by just some politicians. But I think what is important here, again, on one end is accountability and justice, and I think this is really what this is all about, I hope. And then another thing, of course, we need to understand is that if ever this impeachment will proceed accordingly, it will also create avenues by which our institutions will be respected. And I think trust and confidence in the institutions is very, very important, because otherwise it will create cynicism, skepticism, and overall political fatigue in what's happening at the moment.
Okay, well, I mean, if we're able to successfully execute an impeachment exercise, whether it results in her conviction or not, that is has to be said is an indicator of political stability.
Right.
Well, to a certain extent, yes, because it shows that the system is working.
Yes.
Although in reality, as we all know, it's actually being weaponized to go against people who would actually pose threats one way or another. But at the end of the day, it's something that we need to get over and done with, because there are so far more pressing concerns that we need to really focus on. And I guess we've been expending so much resources on this.
Right.
So hopefully, finally, matapos na rin, hindi ba?
And I think in addition to that, the narrative as to why we are putting in a lot of resources and a lot of effort in trying to unseat a vice president, when in fact, she's just a president in waiting. I mean, if she is not the front runner, and if she does not
there would not have been any reason
there
why
would be
they
no
would
reason
do this anyway.
in the first place. Because how many vice presidents have been impeached in the past? There's none, right? But primarily because she is the front runner, that she declared already that she's running, and then she is the one very vocal about making these people currently in the government accountable for all this corruption, the flood control scandals and everything. So it gives us the impression that maybe all of this orchestrations is being hurled against her. It's not really just for accountability, but also because these people currently in the Congress, those people who were actually said to be to have benefited from this corruption, may also be saving their themselves, after 2028.
Kasi diba, they have no other choice but to go all out after what they've done against her. They're actually worried that should she survive this and become president in 2028, then it would be payback time. But at the end of the day, this is a political exercise, no more, no less, and people should understand that this is something that although or albeit within the process, something that these politicians would need to do in order to protect their political interests. And that's all there's to it, whether we like it or not.
Thank you to our political analysts today, Attorney Edward Chico and Professor Froilan Calilung. Stay tuned to our rolling coverage on Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment hearing. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Global markets are kicking off the week coming from an AI rally. Joining us is our business and markets reporter, former Morgan Stanley investment banking analyst, Sachiko Gamboa. Sachiko, the floor is yours.
Global markets are opening the week riding an AI wave. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq closed at record highs last Friday, extending their winning streak to 6 weeks after stronger than expected U.S. jobs data and another rally in AI-related stocks. Wall Street darling NVIDIA closed at a record high. Its market value is back above $5 trillion, a level no other company has matched in the AI boom. And chipmaker AMD also topped analyst expectations with first quarter revenue of about $10.3 billion, up 38% from a year ago. Its data center business jumped 57%. That growth was driven by strong demand from data centers, the massive computing hubs, powering AI tools, cloud services, and the next wave of digital infrastructure. And then there is Apple. CNBC has flagged a bullish call that sees the iPhone maker reaching $400 a share. That matters because Apple has been seen as late to the AI race. But if investors start to believe Apple can turn its billions of devices into an AI platform, the stock could become the next big leg of the tech rally. Bloomberg also reports Apple has held early talks with Intel and Samsung to make some of its main device chips in the United States. The AI wave is also lifting Asian markets, although this was tempered by a deadlock in the peace talks between the United States and Iran. Samsung Electronics is now part of the $1 trillion club. It is only the second Asian company to reach that level after Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, the Taiwanese chip giant that makes advanced chips for some of the world's biggest tech companies. That shows the world's biggest tech companies are trying to secure their chip supply as AI becomes a bigger part of their future products. The Philippines wants a piece of that story too. But there is a push to create a 4,000-acre AI industrial hub in New Clark City under PAC Silica, a U.S.-backed initiative. The ambition is to position the country as part of the global AI and semiconductor supply chain. But for now, that promise has not yet translated into stronger confidence in local stocks. The local stock market could not quite reach a winning streak. But today, the increase in the country's foreign direct investments boosted the Philippine stock market. It rose about 0.4%. The day's most active stocks are mixed, with Pure Gold rising the most at 5%. According to COL Financial, investors are also monitoring data on March remittances to be released on Friday. It's also the tail end of the first quarter's earnings season. Still, investor sentiment remains fragile, with markets still weighing high inflation, the war in the Middle East, and the lingering fallout from the flood control scandal. So, Apa, the contrast is clear. Global investors are still chasing the AI wave from NVIDIA and AMD in the US to Samsung in Asia. But in the Philippines, investors are still looking for a stronger reason to buy.
Thank you, Chico. On the corporate front, what corporate stories are we watching today?
Apa, on a corporate front, Ayala Corporation has secured a $100 million sustainability-linked financing deal with DBS Bank Limited. The facility allows Ayala to borrow in either US or Singapore dollars. The company said the deal supports its growth plans and sustainability commitments. And Robinsons Land Corporation's consolidated revenues ended in positive territory. In the first quarter, revenues rose about 11% to more than 12 billion pesos, driven by the strength of its diversified portfolio and improved contributions from its business developments.
And that's Business 360. We'll keep tracking the moves that matter across markets, policy, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.